Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Prerna, and I represent the enterprise team of Cognitia. We have a pretty interesting session ahead today. I hope all of you are doing well and safe at your own houses. I'll take a quick minute to introduce about Cognitia while all of you try and settle in for the session. Cognitia is world's leading digital talent transformation organization, and we cater to over 450 plus clients all over the globe. If we can go to the next slide, please. We have trained more than 1,30,000 professionals all over the globe, and we mainly deal with Fortune 100 and 500 clients. We have been authorized partners for training on Red Hat, Automation Anywhere, ITIL, ISC Square, and we're also silver partner with Microsoft. We have a trainer pool of over 7,000 industry veterans, which work with us as instructors, SMEs, and consultants. Like I already mentioned, we cater to more 45 countries all over the globe, and I already mentioned about our clientele. There are certain awards and accolades that are in our kitty, and a lot of them have been awarded to us because of the quality of delivery that we contain in the sessions that we do. If I go to the next slide, it talks about the competencies that we have the best grip upon. Our centers of excellence revolve around machine learning and artificial intelligence, microservices, RPA, that's robotic process automation, IoT, that's Internet of Things, big data analytics, DevOps, cloud computing, which captures AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, cybersecurity, BI technology, and a lot of other professional development courses. If I move further, we have, looking at the current situations and the crisis time, we are trying to come up with more and more engaging models that can help corporates and IT professionals individually as well to make the most out of their time and invest in the right courses. We have come up with the concept of masterclass, which happens to be one-day extensive hands-on training on various technologies. We just finished one of them, and here's the list of upcoming masterclasses in front of you. We have one upcoming session on machine learning in production. The next happens on Azure IoT, and then we go ahead with a React.js masterclass. Following that would be an AWS masterclass. Please note that all the instructors for these sessions are industry veterans and very senior folks in the IT industry. These are certain masterclasses that we are coming up with, while there would be more, of course, and we'll keep you posted about that. In case you want different kind of trainings for yourself or your teams or your colleagues or anybody else, we can also help you with live instructor-led virtual sessions. These won't be recorded sessions. These would be as live as we are right now in the same mode. So you can avail sessions on data science and machine learning, AWS, Azure, Python, Spring Boot and microservices, and ITIL v4 Foundation. This was in a nutshell about what we can do for you. There's many more things that are going to be, catered to your requirements if there is any. We have been highlighting a lot about the advantages of e-learning these days because that's the only way ahead. We are not sure when the tough times would really end. And that's the reason there's a lot of promotion that has been happening for e-learning. It's definitely easier for the team, the corporates to track and report the overall the way it has been taken up with the people. There can be recorded sessions at any time. Whatever is going on right now is also being recorded. So once you attend it, you'll have a lifetime. There can be assessments and evaluations, simplified learning process, of course. You'll experience one of them today. Very streamlined process of training that we at Cognitia follow. There are various reference materials that we give access to if you are to go training with us. There's also a certification that we will be awarding our attendees with. There's gamification in our LMS. The participant attendance will also be monitored and shared with the stakeholders. And of course, the recordings will be available on LMS. Also, people get to have an access to it for lifetime. That's how we go about it. Great. So I think I'm good for now. I'll just need a quick second to help you with further queries. In case you face any difficulty with the screen on your systems or the voice quality or anything, if you feel the voice is breaking, there's loose connection, we would request you to rejoin the session and move to a better network area at your place. That's going to be of some help to you. In case it still prevails and continues going on the same way, please do not worry about it. The recorded session will be shared with you on your email addresses. This may take a couple of days' time. You can allow us a week's time at max, and you should be receiving the recording links on your email addresses up front. Also, the certificates for this will be reaching out to you in the similar manner. You'll just have to allow us some time there, and post that, I'm guessing everything will be all fine. With that, I'll hand over the session to our speaker today. Please take this up from here, Hemant.
Thanks, Prerna. And thank you everyone for joining this session. This is Hemant Rathore, and I'm going to be the instructor for today's session. I've got more than 10 years of experience in the fields of analytics, data science, machine learning, statistical analysis, business intelligence, and data warehouse technologies. And today we are going to specifically talk about time series analysis. So without wasting our time, let us go ahead and start with the session. I hope I'm loud and clear and you all are able to hear me. Okay, so what is the agenda of today's session? So definitely time series analysis is something that is, one of the very important aspect of predictive analytics, right? Predictive analytics or machine learning, where we try to make the predictions about the unknowns or about the future. And time series analysis is one of the major stream of it. What do we do in time series analysis and how do we perform it in a step-by-step manner? In today's session, we are going to cover some of the very important aspect of that, and the specific topics that we are going to cover in today's sessions are as follows. We will start with the very basic definition of time series analysis, so that firstly we can be on same page. We can understand basically what is time series analysis, how it is different from other form of predictive analytics. What are some important properties of time series analysis? What are different type of time series analysis? Stationary versus non-stationary time series, seasonal versus non-seasonal time series, and then we will come to the most interesting part, which is forecasting. So basically the time series has got two components. When we talk about time series, either we are talking about time series analysis or we are going to be interested in forecasting. So after completing the analysis part, we will proceed with time series forecasting, where we will be talking about different type of models which are generally used to perform the forecasting. And then we will have a very quick hands-on case study using Python, where we see how we are going to implement, how we are going to train a model live in front of you to perform the forecasting. Okay, so I'm pretty excited, and let us go ahead and start with the session. Okay, so here comes our first question. What is time series? I will firstly, walk you through the definition of time series analysis, but don't worry, I am going to explain it to you in a very simple language later. Okay, so an ordered sequence of values of a variable at equally spaced time interval is generally known as time series. But why do we need time series analysis? Okay, before answering that question, let us try to understand in little simple language what is time series. So basically, friend, whenever you have got a data present in such a way that you have got one column or one feature which is representing time, or calendar attribute like date, month, year. And another feature, another attribute is going to be a numeric measure like a series, which is going to be a numerical random variable. This type of information or this type of data is known as time series. As you can see on my screen, this graph. Okay, so now you can see on the x-axis we have got some time related metric or feature, like it is month. Okay, so here we have got 11 month starting from like first, second, third, fourth. You can simply consider them as January, February, March, April till November. On the y-axis we have the numerical attribute, the value, the series. Okay, so on x-axis we have time, on y-axis we have series. So whenever we talk about this type of data which has got two component or two attribute or two column, in simple language, one is calendar attribute, another one is numerical column, this type of data is known as time series. And why do we call it time series? Because this is going to progress over the period of time. So it is dependent on time. It varies over the period of time. It progress over the period of time, maybe in positive direction, maybe in negative direction, or maybe without any trend. So this is what do we mean by time series. But why do we perform time series analysis? Very important point. So time series has got some of the possible trends present in it, and those possible trends are autocorrelation, trend, and seasonality. Now these are some of the trends as a data scientist we are going to be very interested in. If our time series has got any of these three things or maybe more than one thing, then there is a possibility we can decode that time series, or maybe we, in other words, we can simply forecast it or predict it with some error of margin of error, of course. Okay, so now I would like to talk about the objective of time series analysis. Why do we want to perform time series analysis? There are two reasons. Reason number one, with the help of these underlying facts like autocorrelation, trend, seasonality, don't worry about these terms. I'm going to explain all these three things, one by one in quite detail in the upcoming slides. But for the time being, you can simply understand that these are the trends which are hidden within the data, and we are going to find them. Why do we want to find them? We want to find them because we want to understand our time series better. We want to see how our time series is behaving, how these data points are produced. That is known as analysis. So sometimes what do? We simply want to make ourselves comfortable with the time series, how this time series is behaving. That is the only objective we have. When we perform this analysis, we call it simply time series analysis. Okay. Second objective, we do not want to simply analyze the time series, but later, maybe in some cases, if we have these trends available, we can even perform the prediction, we can even perform the forecasting of the time series, and that is known as the time series forecasting. So we have got these two applications, analysis and forecasting. With the help of analysis, organizations and companies, they come to know maybe how their sales is going on, how their products are working in different aspects, in different geography region, right? So they come their progress, they come their performance, they come to know their performance. With the help of forecasting, they even try to predict the future and make themselves prepared for it. Okay, let me give you some of the very common example. Economic forecasting. Okay, how would be the GDP growth, how would be the economy over the period of time for next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, right? All these things come under economic forecasting. Sales forecasting, I'm a production company, I'm producing maybe a number of different products. What will be the demand for product A over the next quarter, over the next season, so that I can accordingly plan my supply? So demand forecasting or sales forecasting. Stock market analysis, analysis, definitely all of you would be aware of it. So we have got a huge application of time series analysis in stock market analysis. Then process and quality control, I'm developing certain products. Over the period of time, my machinery, my factories would start introducing some error, some maybe engineering error, production error. With the help of time series analysis, generally these errors are observed. If these errors are white noise, or if these errors are increasing over the period of time, it is random or it has got some trend. If it is random, that is fine, but if it has got some trend, then definitely it is dangerous, and over the period of time my defect is going to increase more and more, right? So I hope now you, by this slide, you should be having pretty fair idea about the time series. What is time series, what is analysis, what is forecasting? So let us go ahead and see some of the important properties of time series. So in the last slide, I was talking about trend, autocorrelation, and seasonality. Now let me talk about these three things in detail. Okay, please consider this particular time series diagram. As you can see over here, on the x-axis we have got year attribute. On the y-axis, basically it is about the energy production, so in some units, energy unit. Now what do we want to understand first? Trend. What is trend? Trend is nothing but over the period of time, if we can see that our time series is moving into certain direction, okay, the trend exists when there is a long term increase or decrease in the data. Okay, it doesn't have to be linear, it can be linear or non-linear, but my time series over the long period has got some direction that is known as trend. Here if you can see, if I would like to draw maybe a trend line over here, then it is going to look something like this, right? So what does it mean? Like over the period of time, definitely I have got some angle, of trend, right? It is increasing. This type of trend is known as positive trend. On the other side, we can also have negative trend, or maybe no trend if your time series is moving like this in this direction. But here our time series is moving here like this, it is positive trend time series. Okay, so that is all we understand by trend. Let us come to autocorrelation. What is autocorrelation? Autocorrelation is nothing but the correlation of the time series lags with themselves. Okay, so what do we mean by lag? Lag is nothing but each and every value, each and every observation of the time series is technically referred as lag. Now what is autocorrelation? So autocorrelation is something when the lags, when the consecutive lags or maybe alternative lags or lags present at certain distance would start showing the correlation. For example, if you can see, let me call this lag 1, let me call this lag 2, let me call this lag 3. Now if we can see, these lags, lag 1, 2, 3, they are always like present at the peak of the fluctuation, right? They have got very strong correlation. If it is positive, then it is also going to be positive, it is also going to be positive. Very similarly, these lag, if you can see, they are always going to be very much highly correlated. So in time series, what happens, if I know this is the lag present at number 12, this is the lag suppose present at number 24, and this is suppose lag 36. Suppose I don't know anything about lag 36, but I know about lag 12 and lag 24, I can very easily say that because lag 12, 24 and so on at the interval of 12 has got very strong correlation, it is the clear indication that whatever the lag it would be, maybe at present at lag number 36, or maybe this one present at 48, it is also going to be in line with them. It has got a very strong correlation. I can predict them, right? Using this fact. That is what do we mean by correlation, when the legs of the time series have correlation. And because we are talking about just one variable, please friends, remember this thing very remember this point. Okay, this is very important point. Here we are talking about our time series. Suppose if my time series is y, then I'm talking about the correlation of y with itself, maybe y1 and y2, right? So that is why it is known as autocorrelation. It is correlation of the series with itself. Next comes the seasonality. What is seasonality? So seasonality is nothing but sometime what happens over the period of time. You will see that your time series is going to show some seasonal pattern. For example, umbrella cell. Okay, you will notice that umbrellas are going to be generally sold just before the rainy season, right? Or maybe during the rainy season, or maybe sometime just before the summer season, or during the summer season, right? Maybe you will not see umbrellas being sold during the winter. Right? So they have got seasonality. So for example, suppose here the year is starting, the first year 1980, and here the year is ending 1981 is starting from here. Okay, this is the pattern we have got for complete year 1980, starting from January 1980 till December 1980. Then comes January 1981 and December 1981, and so on. Now, if we try to understand this pattern, then what is happening? This time series may be going to increase till May, and after May, it is going to decrease. In every year, during every year, it is going to show that pattern. It will increase till May, decrease then till December, increase till May, decrease till December, and so on. If your time series has got this type of behavior, this behavior is known as seasonality. Your time series is dependent on the seasons, and in certain seasons, definitely your values, your series is going to shoot up, or maybe in another seasons it is going to shoot down. So very simple: trend, autocorrelation, seasonality. Trend is nothing but positive negative trend, autocorrelation, correlation of the legs within themselves, and then seasonality, what is the pattern or the curve or trend it is following over the period of seasons. That is what do we mean by trend, autocorrelation, and seasonality. Now we are going to talk about some different type of time series. Okay, first comes the stationary versus non-stationary time series. These are very important aspects of time series analysis, friend, because these concepts are going to be very helpful for you when you are going to perform your time series analysis, or maybe when you want to come up with a forecasting model. So that's why these properties are very important to know. What is stationary time series? Stationary time series is simply a time series for which none of the statistical property of the time series vary or change over the period of time. Or we can say all the statistical property of the time series are going to be constant. What are some of the very important statistical property of time series? Okay, very first important statistical property is moving average, or let us denote it by mu. Then the variance or standard deviation of time series, or autocorrelation. Okay, let us call this AC. So these are some of the very important properties, and if all these three properties are constant for any time series, we say that a time series or the given time series is a stationary time series. Let us understand all these three one by one. Okay, this is my time series. Let me break my time scale in different segments. Okay, in this segment, if I try to calculate my mean or the moving average, my moving average is going to be somewhere here, let us say 380, right? Somewhere below 400. Okay, again in this segment, if I try to calculate, it is going to maybe somewhere 385. In this segment, maybe somewhere 381. somewhere in this segment, again somewhere around 380 only. So over the period of time, my average is not changing, my mean is not changing. So my mu is constant. Okay, what is the standard deviation? Over the period of time, my time series has got some fluctuations. Okay, can I see these fluctuations? These fluctuations above and below the mean, I can roughly draw maybe some significant fluctuations, boundary of significant fluctuations like this. Okay, and I can see over the period of time, maybe my time series has got a standard deviation of maybe 20. So my time series is moving by the standard deviation of 20 above and below the mean. But this standard deviation 20 is not changing over the period of time. So my standard deviation sigma is also constant. Okay, what do we mean by autocorrelation? So again, autocorrelation, I'm not sure if we have any autocorrelation present over here or not. If suppose, like by looking at this time series, I cannot say, right? We'll have to perform some test for that. But right now, I cannot see if any autocorrelation is there. But if any autocorrelation is there, that autocorrelation should be constant. Okay, basically it is not showing any trend, it is not showing any pattern. Definitely we do not have any as such autocorrelation. Maybe we can say our autocorrelation here is 0. It looks like quite random time series, and 0 is nothing but a constant. Okay, so that is why this given example of time series is stationary time series. Now let us try to understand what is non-stationary time series. Very simple. Opposite of stationary time series is non-stationary time series. So friends, if any of these three properties of time series, maybe mean, standard deviation, autocorrelation, change over the period of time, any one or all, that is going to be a non-stationary time series. Let us try to understand it over here. If I'm again going to break this time series maybe in multiple segments, then I see here the average will be somewhere around maybe 120, but here my average is going to be somewhere around maybe 150. Here my average is going to be somewhere around maybe 250, and here my average maybe is going to be around somewhere like 320. So over the period of time, my time series has got varying or increasing average or increasing moving average. Okay, it means that mu or my mean is not constant. If you talk about the fluctuation, then if you can see, initially the fluctuations are very small, but over the period of time we can see how fluctuations are increasing in both the directions. It means our sigma is also not constant. And I'm not sure about autocorrelation at this point in time, but it seems we have pretty much a strong autocorrelation. Not sure if autocorrelation is increasing or not. But if any one or more than one properties are not constant, it means the time series is non-stationary. So this type of time series are non-stationary time series. Okay, let us move further. Another classification of time series is seasonal versus non-seasonal time series. So yes, we have talked about seasonality, so now I think you should be able to correlate it very well. Okay, so what is seasonality? If you have got any seasonal pattern present in your time series. Now if you can see here, I have got this time series. In this time series, like year is starting from here and is ending over here. Now during this year, maybe this time series is increasing like this and slight decrease and ending over here. Then again in the next year, we have got sharp increase in the beginning of the year itself, sharp decrease, then again sharp increase, very sharp increase, right? And then in the starting of the year itself, we have decrease and then increase. We do not see any sort of seasonal pattern over here, right? But if we talk about this particular series, yes, here year is starting from here, ending here, starting here, ending here. We have got the same pattern. increase, then decrease, increase, then decrease, increase, then decrease, increase, then decrease, and so on. Here we have got the seasonality. Here we do not have seasonality. So based on seasonality, our time series are divided into two categories, seasonal and non-seasonal time series. Now, with the understanding of all these concepts, we are at the situation that we can perform time series forecasting. So this much concepts, these are the very essential concepts, and these are sufficient for you. So whenever in future maybe you are trying to analyze a time series, these are some of the important properties of time series that you should pay attention to. Okay, so you will analyze these properties, and then you will decide if my time series has got seasonal pattern or not, if my time series has got trend, if my time series has got seasonality, right? So these are the very important pillars of time series analysis. Now, with the help of these properties of time series analysis, statisticians and scientists have invented some models, some forecasting model, with the help of which you can even predict the time series or the future legs of time series. That is known as time series forecasting. Now I'm starting with a very basic model, which is moving average model. Please note that moving average model is just a conceptual model. We actually don't use it for any sort of time series forecasting. Okay, but it is very important model to start your forecasting model with. Okay, so what is moving average model? So see, moving average model is very simple. Suppose if I'm going to ask you a question, what is going to be the price of 1 kg tomato tomorrow? How will you answer this question? Maybe what you will do, you will simply recall last 3, 4, or 5 prices that you remember last time whenever you bought the tomatoes, and you will simply calculate little bit average of it, right? We generally do it in our day-to-day life. That is what do we mean by moving average. You will not consider the tomato price 1 year back or 2 year back, right? You know that is irrelevant. You will consider only most recent prices of tomatoes in the past, and based on that you will make the prediction for future just by doing the average. Okay, you are not considering the trend, you are not considering the positive or negative fluctuation. Please remember that. You simple do the average. So basically friend, if you have got a time series with maybe like ample m number of observation in the past, if you want to predict the future price of your time series at time t plus 1, you will simply consider last m observation. So maybe you can have more than m observation. You can have 1,000 observations from past, you can have 10,000 observations from past. You will take very limited number of observations, maybe 3, 5, or 10, and using those limited observation you will calculate average, and that average we call as moving average. That is going to be a good representative of maybe your future value, but it is not used as a forecasting model. It is a conceptual model. Now we have some better forecasting model available. Okay, starting with the next one, single exponential smoothing or exponential smoothing model. Exponential smoothing models are basically based on the concept of regression. So maybe some of you who have got little understanding of machine learning, like supervised and unsupervised approach, you must have worked on regression analysis. Okay, it is a sort of auto regression, and auto regression is one of the very important model that we are going to discuss next. Okay, but it is also indirectly based on the concept of regression, where we determine the future price or we predict the future price of time series at time t plus 1, definitely with the help of previous lags or past lags, but we do it in such a way that we apply a constant alpha, which is known as the smoothing constant. Now we apply this constant alpha in such a way that the first term is associated with only alpha, but the second term is associated with alpha and 1 minus alpha. Then third term, alpha 1 minus alpha square, then alpha and 1 minus alpha cube. What we are doing over here, let us consider this as power 1 and let us consider it as 1 minus alpha power 0, because anything power 0 is 1, right? So I can call it 0. So here we have raise 0, here we have raise 1, here we have 1 minus alpha raise 2, here we have 1 minus alpha raise 3. Whenever you are applying a constant in this way, by raising the by raising the power, that is known as the exponential equation, right? Your curve or your equation or your trend may be going to look something like this. If you are talking about some variable x which is positive, and you are increasing the raise, then it is going to increase like this exponentially. In a very similar way, we apply the exponential smoothing model. The idea here is this 1 minus alpha is going to be a very small number. 1 minus alpha is going to be a very small number, less than 1. And due to that reason, what is going to be happen? Suppose this quantity is 0.2. When it is going to be multiplied by 0.2, it is going to become like 0.04, right? When it is again going to be multiplied by 0.2, it is going to be like 0.008, right? So what we are doing over here, we are multiplying the historical term with very small numbers, and over the lakhs, over the time, this quantity is going to become narrow down exponentially. So basically, the graph of 1 minus alpha, if you will see, that is going to look maybe something like this. Alpha is going to increase like this, decrease like this, and due to that reason, what we are doing, we are indirectly giving more attention or more weightage to the most recent observation and least weightage to the historical observation. That is why it is known as exponential smoothing model. Because we are smoothing the coefficient of the historical lags. This model is known as exponential smoothing, where your future value is definitely going to be determined by the past value, but more importance will be given to more recent value. Okay, and this model is actually used in some cases, but again, this model has got many drawbacks. It doesn't account for seasonality, it doesn't account for trend, so it has got many drawbacks. And then comes one of the very important model of time series analysis and forecasting, and that model is ARIMA model. I hope many of you must have heard about this model earlier. This is known as autoregressive integrated moving average model. Now this is one of the very accurate time series analysis model, very important time series analysis and forecasting model, because this model has got all the properties. This model can be used for the time series where you have trend. This model can be used for the time series where you have seasonality. Okay, and due to that reason, this model is practically very useful. Now this is not just single model. ARIMA is the combination of three important models. Okay, and basically based on these three models, the final model is produced, that which is called as ARIMA. Let us try to understand all these foundation models one by one. First one is the autoregressive model. Autoregressive model is nothing but very similar to exponential smoothing model we just discussed, but the only difference here is in the exponential smoothing model, the coefficient 1 minus alpha will be replaced by, or 1 minus alpha square, 1 minus alpha cube, that will be replaced by some constant like beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and so on. And these constants are not having any correlation, these are independent. So it is possible that this has got even bigger value than this. Beta 2 might have bigger value than beta 1 in some cases, and in some cases beta 1 is bigger than beta 2. So it is totally dependent on your time series, in which time series or which time series you are working on, and for which time series which previous term is more important. And friends, those who are aware of the regression concept, don't you think this formula is very much similar to the regression formula, which is generally represented by like y equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3 and so on. The only difference here is we have got some independent variables here in regression. X1, X2, X3, these are the independent variables or features. These are replaced by the historical term of your time series. So it is regression where y is predicted with the help of x1, x2, x3. So it is called regression. Now here y is predicted with the help of historical value of y itself. So that is why it is known as auto-regression or auto-regressive model. Okay. Next comes the moving average model. In moving average model, your prediction or next value is actually determined with the help of past q errors or fluctuations in your time series. So basically this model is directly not used in many cases, but it is actually combined with the AR model, and the next model is the ARMM model, which is the combination of these two models. So it is not that much used independently, but along with AR model, MA concept is used. Now, why errors or fluctuations are important? Error and fluctuations are important in order to decide some important external factors which cannot be predicted as a seasonality or as a trend, but can still affect your model. It can still affect your time series. So this type of factors are introduced with the help of MA model. Now comes the combination of two, AR and MA model. We call it ARMA model. This is even better model. And with the help of ARMA model, what we are saying, okay, the next value of time series is going to be dependent on the, suppose, P last legs of auto regressive model, P last value of the time series itself, and Q error terms and the last q error terms. Based on that, we are going to decide the next future value of our time series. The combination of both the model. Here we are considering the autoregressive model as well as the moving average model. Okay, so in that way we got a better model, ARMA model. Now, ARMA model is very good, but it has got one drawback. ARMA model cannot be applied for the model which have got the trend. ARMA model can be applied when your time series is stationary time series like this. If your time series is non-stationary time series, if it has got, you know, moving average, moving variation, or autocorrelation, or varying autocorrelation, so ARMA model cannot be applied. So the answer is ARIMA. ARIMA is autoregressive integrated moving average. There is a concept of differencing operation. What is differencing operation? Differencing operation is nothing but you are going to produce a new time series, which generally denoted by delta y, by subtracting the consecutive terms of the time series like yt minus 1. This formula will give you a totally new time series by differencing the lags. And when you difference the lags, what happens? If your time series has got trend, your time series will become flattened time series like this after differencing. So we apply different type of differencing. We apply differencing to flatten the time series. We apply differencing to remove the seasonality, remove the trend. So what do we do, friends? Whenever you have got a time series which is not an stationary time series, firstly you apply the differencing operation, number one, and then you call ARMA model, number two. The combination of differencing and ARMA model is known as ARIMA model. Okay, this I here stands for this differencing operation, and ARMA here for this ARMA model. So these are, some of the forecasting model. And now I think without wasting our time, what we can do, we can quickly jump to Python and we can quickly talk about the case study. So we will talk about one case study where we will try to analyze one time series, and then we will also try to implement ARIMA model to make the prediction for that time series. Okay, so that is going to be pretty interesting exercise, and I'm going to switch my window to Spider. So I think some of you might be aware of Spider. Spider is one of the IDE, integrated development environment, which is used for Python programming, and this is very suitable for statistical programming or predictive models. Okay, so I'm using Spider over here, and this is actually going to require you to have a basic understanding of Python. So I'm not going to maybe talk about Python programming over here. I will try my best to introduce some of the basic things about Python over here if you are totally not comfortable with Python. So basically Python, just like any other programming language, has got different libraries or packages which are used for different type of purpose. Here we are supposed to use some of the important packages. So firstly, what we are going to do, we are going to import all these packages or library. What do we mean by import? So basically import is nothing. I'm attaching these libraries to my current session, so that in future whenever I'm going to need these libraries, I can use these libraries. I can use the functions of these libraries, and these functions can be utilized for my time series analysis and forecasting, which is the objective of today's session. Okay, so I'm just attaching all these libraries. Now I have got one time series which is present in a CSV file. It is the industrial production of gas utility in United States. So it is a real time series. It is not a dummy time series or something. Let me show you that time series. So here we have got this data. Maybe I can show you here to understand it better. Okay, so this is the data frame or the data we have got. It has got two columns. As you can see, this is what do we mean by time series. It has got first column, which is time dependent or date column or calendar column, and here we have the second column, which is the actual time series. This is our the continuous variable that we want to predict, that we want to analyze and forecast. So a time series is typically going to follow this structure: a calendar or time dependent attribute and a numerical attribute which is dependent on time. Now what we are going to do over here, firstly we want to analyze this time series. How do we want to analyze the time series? So whenever you start analyzing your time series, the first thing you do is plotting the time series, right? A very simple thing. So because it is a pandas data frame and pandas data frame has already got the inbuilt plot function, so you can simply go ahead and call the plot function. That will work very well, and with the help of which you can plot your time series right away. So if you can see, this is my time series and it looks like pretty complex, right? So that is how the industrial production of gas utility in United States increased over the period of time. And if you can see, like, this time series is definitely not a stationary time series, right? It is moving, it is increasing over the period of time exponentially. It has got increasing variance. It seems it has got some correlation as well. Not sure about the seasonality. So this is the first step. You plot the time series, then you start making some conclusion about the time series by looking at the plot. But definitely by the bare eyes, we cannot be that much precise, we cannot be that much accurate. So what do we do? There is a there is a there is a important concept of time series decomposition. Time series decomposition is sort of reverse engineering concept, where we assume that if my time series If my time series is not a stationary time series and my time series has got maybe trend, seasonality, and autocorrelation, then my time series is going to be divided or decomposed in those component very well. I can decompose my time series into trend, seasonalities, and fluctuation. That is the concept behind time series decomposition. If I am able to decompose my time series very well without any problem, it means that yes, we are good. My time series has got these components. If we cannot see any evidence of these components are present, it means that no, my time series is stationary times. So let me show you. Okay, so for this particular purpose, I'm going to utilize the stats model of Python, which is used for the time series decomposition. It has got a very important method, seasonal decompose method. And with the help of that method, I have provided my data, my time series as input, and it will give me the decomposed time series. Now this decomposed time series can be plotted with some setting of visualization. I can plot this decomposed time series. So now if you can see on my screen, then this time series is going to look like this after decomposition. This is the original time series, okay, in the first row. And after decomposition, we have decomposed this time series into three components. The first component is trend, the second component is seasonal or seasonality, and the third component is the residual, the remaining. So now I can see it very clearly. If I'm going to combine or multiply these three things together, I will get my original time series back. That is what do we call as time series decomposition. And now with the help of this time series decomposition, friends, as you can see, it is very easy to make the conclusion. For example, do we have trend present in our time series? Yes, we have trend present in our time series. Do we have seasonality present in our time series? Yes, by looking at the residual, we can say yes, we have seasonality present in our time series. Do we have autocorrelation? Yes, for sure we have autocorrelation present in our time series. Okay, so that is how we make conclusion, or we can finalize our conclusion by performing the decomposition of time series. Now I'm going to do what? My analysis is sort of done. For example, I know how my time series look like. My time series has got what different properties, and how these properties maybe can be utilized to make certain decision. So for example, if I would be a person, maybe a business person, concerned about the energy production, so I can analyze this very well. Okay, like our energy production is increasing exponentially over the period of time, but maybe for last couple of years it has got stagnant, right? So if you can see over here, the trend was quite exponential from here to here, but from last 3-4 years it is almost sort of stationary. Okay, and also we have a lot of fluctuations over here. So it means that over the period of year, maybe sometimes our production is very high, sometime our production is very less. What is the problem? Why we do not have consistent production over the period of time? What are the seasonal constraints which are not allowing us to maybe have consistent production of energy utilities? So these are very important business related questions which can be raised by looking at these time series analysis. Okay, so I hope this time series analysis thing should be very clear to all of you now. Now we will go ahead and start with the second objective of today's case study, and that is actually the forecasting. Okay, what I will do, let me create a variable over here simply, so every time I will not have to use my data frame and the column. So I've created a variable over here, energy variable. Now what I'm going to show you over here is a utility which is known as auto arima. So friends, I would like to share it with you. So ARIMA model, as we discussed, has got three component. Okay, it has got auto-regressive model, it has got moving average model, and it has got the integration which is used for the differencing operation. Whenever you want to perform the forecasting using ARIMA model, initially you are supposed to know all these orders of ARIMA model. So these orders of ARIMA model are referred as P, D, and Q. What is P? P is the order of autoregressive model, as in how many previous value you should use for predicting the future value. Order of AR model, which is referred as P, which is denoted by P. D. D is the order of differencing operation. In order to detrain your time series, because your time series has got trend and seasonality. So in order to get rid of trend, in order to get rid of seasonality, what should be the order of differencing operation? By what order you should perform the differencing? It should be one leg differencing, two leg differencing, seasonal differencing. This type of questions are asked in order to decide the value of D. And then the Q value. Q value is the order of MA model. MA model, moving average model, which means how many previous error terms are going to be used to predict the future value. That is order Q. Now, in order to determine these value, what is P value, what is D value, what is going to be my Q value, you will have to perform very thorough analysis of your time series. And generally, we use two important plots, ACF and PSEF plot. ACF is autocorrelation function plot, PSEF is partial autocorrelation function plot. These concepts are little complex, and I would not like to introduce these concepts right away, otherwise you will be confused. You are just starting, like most of you may be just starting with the time series analysis. So what is ACF plot, how to read them, how to analyze them, what is PSEF plot, how to read them, how to analyze them, is something that we can park aside for the time being. Let us don't talk about that. It is really complex, and we should not cover this right away. But I can talk about one alternative method that you can use right away, and without getting into that much complexity, you can still make very accurate ARIMA model for forecasting. Okay, how you can do that? With the help of auto ARIMA. Auto ARIMA allows you to actually perform a sort of grid search for different values for these parameter PD and Q, and it finally gives you the final value, most accurate and appropriate value of PD and Q that you can use in your model, and you can build your model, train your model. Okay, so let me show you how to use auto ARIMA. So auto ARIMA comes from the pyramid ARIMA package. So you will have to install pyramid ARIMA package first if you don't have it already, and from that pyramid ARIMA package we have a method auto ARIMA. To the auto ARIMA method, what you will do, you will simply provide your original time series, which is our energy time series, and along with that you don't need to provide the specific value of PDQ, but you can provide some wide range. For example, you can provide the starting P value and the maximum P value, starting Q value and the maximum Q value, and in that way it will evaluate different combinations of those PDQ value, and then give you the final set of PDQ value based on the archaic information criteria AIC, which is nothing but the error in forecasting. Okay, it is a sort of prediction error, you can say, roughly. So this is something which generally takes a lot of time, and I do not want to keep all of you idle, so I have run it already. And when I have executed that model has given me these order. So now consider these order. I have got order 212, which means that P value is 2, D value is 1, and Q value is 2. What do we mean by that? It means that in order to make your ARIMA model, you need to include last two legs for autoregressive model. you will have to perform differencing of order 1 to get rid of trend and seasonality, and you will have to sorry, only trend, because here we are talking about the non-seasonal model, and you will have to include last two error terms for your MA model. Now a very important thing to share with all of you: whenever you perform the forecasting for a seasonal time series, a time series which has got seasonality, okay, then in that case you don't apply only one ARIMA model, but you will have to apply two ARIMA model. Okay, first ARIMA model for your non-seasonal component of time series, and second ARIMA model for your seasonal component of time series. Due to that reason, here you will see you have got two order. First one is order, second one is seasonal order. So here we are implementing two ARIMA model. The first ARIMA model is for non-seasonal component of time series. Second ARIMA model is for seasonal component of time series. Here we have got the order like 0, 1, 2. It means that for seasonal component, we don't have autoregressive model. For seasonal component, we have to apply differencing of order 1 and moving average of order 2. Okay, and then this 12 is simply representing the cycle, like after how many legs your season is repeating. So our time series has got 12-month cycle, so that is why I am providing 12 over here as my frequency. So if I am going to provide these numbers which are returned by my auto ARIMA function, I am going to train my model. Okay, so I have initialized this model. My model has got as ARIMA model. Using ARIMA model, I will now call fit method. As soon as I will call fit method, this is going to train the model. So now if you can see, the model is currently being trained. Okay, so it is going to take some time, maybe less than 40 seconds, and it is done. Okay, so now our model has been trained, and please notice one very important thing. While training this model, I am not providing my entire data frame. My data frame, energy data frame, has got how many observation? 955 observation. How many observation I am giving while training the model? Only 900 observation. So I am keeping 55 most recent observation for testing purpose. I am not training my model on those, so I am not sharing those 55 observation with my model. Okay, so I have got trained my model with 900 observation, and I have kept the 55 most recent observation for testing, so that I can test my model on those 55 observation, so I can compare the actual value with predicted value. Okay, so once your model is trained, next thing is simply making the prediction. So using your trained model, you can call the method get prediction. To get prediction method, you will provide the start and the end value of your series that you want to predict. So suppose I have made the prediction till 900. I will start making the prediction from 900 or maybe 901, and then I would like to make the prediction maybe for future as well. So my time series is only up to 955. I am making prediction for another one more year. So to include another one more year, I am providing the end value as 967. Okay, so I will go ahead and call the predict method, and my predictions are saved into the variable pred, and with the help of predicted mean attribute, I can see all these predictions made by model. So these are the predictions my model has made for 900th observation, 901st observation, 902nd observation, and so on. But I cannot validate it just by looking at these numbers. So maybe what I can do, let us go ahead and plot it. So what I'm doing, I'm making the plot, I'm drawing a plot for these two series, the observed series or actual series, and the prediction made by model. When I execute that, I have got this very interesting plot. In the blue color, as you can see, is the observed time series or the original time series. In the orange color, you can see the forecast. We have some overlapping over here, and we have some forecast or prediction for future value. Definitely, it is not very clear what is happening over here because of too much value, right? So let me do one thing. Let me draw only limited value. Okay, so I'm starting maybe somewhere from 800 so that we can actually see what is happening over here. Okay, so now if you can see, this is my time series. I have provided my time series only till here, only till 900 for training. And after 900, in blue color you can see original time series, and in red color you can see prediction. Now if you can see how my predictions are very much in line with the observed time series. When the observed time series is going up, my predictions are going up. When the actual time series is going down, my predictions are going down. They are very tightly coupled with each other. And here my actual time series is finished at 955 observation, and from here I have even plotted the future prediction with only red color. So you can see how in future the time series will move. So that is also something I have got. And by looking at this overlapping window, I can very confidently say, okay, how good my time series is, right? Because we have got very close prediction. We have got very minimum margin of error over here in terms of prediction. So friends, this was a very quick introduction to time series analysis and forecasting model. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Now I think I would like to go ahead and maybe take some questions from you. So we have some time left. So I would like to utilize that time. So we have got maybe hundreds of participants over here. So definitely I won't be able to answer each and every question from all of you, but I would try my best to answer as many question as I can. Okay, so just a minute, let me open your questions. Okay, okay, will the component be automatically available? Asked by Ankur. So Ankur, I think what do you mean by component is this component of time series, like your time series has got trend, seasonality, and autocorrelation. So these components are something that you will have to analyze by looking at the time series, or maybe after decomposing the time series. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the theory sessions, these components are the very important property of your time series. Vishwanand is asking, how can you say autocorrelation exists? Very good question. And we can say, Vishwanand, autocorrelation exists because when we have decomposed our time series and we go to there, okay, when we have decomposed our time series over here, the residuals that we have got, these are simply the white noise. White noise means, or white noise, or you can say the stationary time series, where the fluctuations are simply going up and down, following a very constant mean. And we have got the strong seasonality. Now if you have seasonality, it is the clear indication that these legs are correlated with each other. If you do not have autocorrelation, then you cannot have seasonality at all like this. So this is the clear indication that we have got the autocorrelation. Snehal is saying, thanks, Hemant. Well presented, and information given in the period of 1.5 hour would be discussed. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. And let me see, what do we have next? To what extent can I assume that the predictions are accurate? Is there some accuracy percentage asked by Syed? Yes, Syed, and that accuracy percentage is known as AIC, Archaic Information Criteria. And for any given model, you can actually calculate AIC using the same package stats model. Okay, so that you can actually quantify your prediction accuracy. Um, how do we decide about the model is to be used for which series? So basically, as I mentioned earlier, in a step-by-step manner, firstly you decompose your time series, you analyze different properties of time series, then you decide if your model has got trend, seasonality, autocorrelation, and based on that you perform the analysis of ACF and PSEF plot in order to determine the most appropriate order of ARIMA model, if you are not using the auto ARIMA, of course, because definitely auto ARIMA has got some drawbacks. It is totally based on the AIC, and due to that reason sometime manual analysis can even give you better model. How we do time series in Excel? Sachin, so Sachin, I'm really not sure, I haven't tried that, but why do you want to do time series analysis in Excel? Because nowadays we have got like all these statistical tool free of cost, Python, R. So I would really recommend you to start using them. These are quite interesting and they have got quite a lot functionalities as compared to Excel, especially for your big data analysis, like when you have got a lot of data. We have to use this spider software forecasting. Samir is asking. No, Samir, it is not mandatory. Spider is just one of the Python IDE, and you can use Jupyter Notebook. You can use maybe any other Python IDE or any note any any other notebook, or in fact you can implement ARIMA in R as well. So R also supports ARIMA. So Spider is just one IDE. How many instances can be forecasted using this given training set? Say training set has 5 years data, how many years data can be forecasted as asked by Khyati. So Khyati, so the thing is, definitely you can make the prediction for next 10 years, but the thing is like you cannot make the predictions for something after 10 years by using the data for very old, very you by using very old data like before 10 years, right? So ideally in forecasting model, your window can be maximum for one cycle, because like if you have got a cycle of 12 values, so for the next one cycle, maybe you have got enough value to make the prediction from, right? If you are going to perform the prediction for very future value very far away from your actual values, then definitely it is not going to be that reliable. ARIMA model will by yourself. How can you do it? ARIMA model will by yourself. Asked by Bill. So Bill, basically I didn't get your question that clearly, but ARIMA is ARIMA is a concept, and it is not like a proprietary tool or methodology. It is available across the platforms like R, like Python, SAS. Okay, so I hope I am getting your question correctly. Which book to refer for time series forecasting, which is a good one in the market? For time series analysis, we have got many books, but I think in order to start with, I would recommend you one of the very basic book, and with very good concepts about the statistical model, which is Elements of Statistical Learning. I'm repeating the name of the book again, Elements of Statistical Learning. You can start reading that book. So it will not only give you a lot of information about time series analysis model, but apart from that, all other models, all other statistical methods and models which are used for different type of predictions and forecasting. So that is a very good book you can go ahead with. Anup is asking, what is the best ratio for training and testing data? So Anup, there is no hard and fast rule, but generally your test data should be somewhere in the range from 10 to 20%. So suppose if you have got 100 observation, keep at least 10% data for testing aside. What should be the data type of time in x-axis? Should it be in seconds or minute or date type, or date should be a number? Lima, very important question, Lima. And Lima, actually it doesn't make any difference what your x-axis is. X-axis should be present in a sorted manner. It can be present in second, it can be present in minute, months, or year. If you have noted, if you have noticed, or if you have observed the, the code, in my code I have never used that first column anywhere. Okay, so everywhere we are using the second column. The only condition is your time series should be sorted on first column. That is the only condition. Rojesh is asking, what if the predicted value doesn't go in line with the actual data? How do we transform the data? So Rojesh, that is going to happen only when either you are not selecting the appropriate model, first scenario. Second scenario, when your time series doesn't have any significant trends that you can utilize to make a predictive model, forecasting model. So see, the thing is, friends, it is it is not mandatory that each and every time series can be forecasted. Okay, it is very essential that your time series that you are analyzing should have these important patterns like trend, seasonality, and autocorrelation, or some of them. If your time series does not have all of these things, that means your time series is pretty random. And if your time series is totally random time series, no one can make a forecasting model for that. Okay. Sagar is asking, can you give some example of stationary time series? Yes, I can give you some example of a stationary time series. For example, Sagar, if you are a working professional, then at what time do you go or do you reach your office, right? So maybe sometime you reach your office right at 10 o'clock. Maybe if 10 o'clock in the morning is your office start time. Sometime you reach office maybe 5 minutes earlier. Sometime you reach office 5 minutes later. Sometime you reach office 15 minutes earlier. Sometime you reach office 15 minutes later, right? Over the period of time, if you will try to project or plot this data, you will see that you are following some important pattern. So you have got some mean value around which you reach office, maybe 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. But over the period of time, your office timing is fluctuating around that value. It will not happen that over the period of time your office reaching time is increasing like from 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, right? So this is an example of stationary time series. Does the time series involve any confusion matrix to check how good the predictions are, Shweta? So basically confusion matrix is used for classification type of problem. Time series is a forecasting problem, so the only evaluation matrix we use for time series validation is AIC and BIC. Okay, so archaic information criteria and Bayesian information criteria are the two metrics. um, Manjula is asking, how can we compare our predicted value is correct over time? So Manjula, that is why we perform the model validation and we keep a window of testing aside. We do not use that window for model training, and with the help of that window, we validate our time series if our time series or our predictions are in line with the actual value or not. How do you gauge whether the time series is random and no prediction can be made? If your time series is random, then after decomposition you will not be able to see any trend, any seasonality, and your time series is going to look like this only. Okay, then you cannot make any prediction. That's why we perform time series decomposition. Do we need to remove the outlier also before starting with the time series, asked by Ankur? Yes, Ankur, very important question. And yes, sometimes it is really, mandatory. It is really important to look for the outliers and remove those outliers. But please be very careful when you are doing that, because you should not, compromise with the trend present in the data. So outlier should be outlier only, and you should not compromise with the actual pattern, actual properties of the time series. Can Arima do the back forecasting? Back forecasting, Bala is asking, and I'm really not sure what do we mean by back forecasting. So back forecasting is like maybe predicting the past value. So I'm not sure why we will use any model to predict the past values when we already know that. So maybe Bala, you can answer your question better. What deep learning model can be used, asked by Sahaj. So the answer of time series model or the deep learning approach for time series model are LSTM, long short term memory. So LSTM is a type of deep learning model approach, deep learning based approach, which is used for time series forecasting. If you do not want to use any statistical model, you can go ahead with LSTM. How many variables we can have and do analysis with time, like cells of different models of any car brand? Yeah, so it is, Pankaj, it is totally dependent on your situation. You can have different models for different variables. Definitely for one model you will have only one variable that you want to forecast. If you want to forecast multiple series, you will have to have multiple time series model. Which book can I refer to start learning Python for data analysis specifically? I'm not aware of any book for Python programming for data analysis and statistical learning. I already mentioned one book, Elements of Statistical Learning, which is very important for data analysis and statistical learning. For Python programming, Mandar, I would recommend you to maybe join some Python programming course, or maybe you can start practicing yourself. We have at Cognixia, we have got different courses on Python programming and data science. If you are interested, you can maybe connect with Cognixia support team. Sahaj is asking, why not use deep learning models? Sahaj, so deep learning models are there, as I mentioned earlier, like LSTM is there. If you want, you can go ahead and use that as well. But why do we want to, maybe complex our problem when, the things can be sorted out, when the things can be solved using simple and very robust approaches and models like Arima? Then Utsav is asking, is AIC absolute metric or relative metric, meaning it compares the value of different model? If relative, then all we can know is which model is the best, one with the built and always the best of all possible models, maybe with a different set of PDQ. A very good question, Utsav. And AIC is not relative, it is absolute, but definitely AIC is going to be dependent on your time series and the unit of your time series. So AIC is absolute, and you can use AIC to perform relative comparison, as well as you can use AIC for your independent model validation, or your model validation independently, irrespective of the candidate models. Could you please suggest some books for time series? I think I have already shared that. Can you use any other language other than Python for time series analysis and forecasting? So the next option is R. So you can use R. Shivangi, should we prefer ARIMA over LSTM? If yes, in which type of cases? I would always prefer ARIMA over LSTM because LSTM approach is definitely based on neural network, and for neural network you have to have a lot of training data, and if you do not have a lot of historical training data available, then ARIMA can be very, very useful over LSTM. Only Python is used for this, any other programming language? So Shivani, it is totally up to you. You can use Python, you can use R. Do you suggest any models other than the models discussed that may give good accuracy for time series? So see, there are many other models, but whatever models I mentioned in today's session, these are like widely recognized models. They are widely used in industries, and there are many other models. For example, exponential smoothing has got many variants. Okay, and apart from ARIMA, we have other models as well. Prophet as one model which is catching attention nowadays, brought by Facebook. So there are many other models, and some we cannot simply perform the comparison among these models just by considering the accuracy. Different models give better results in different scenarios, so one has to analyze the situation, I would say, thoroughly before performing the model selection. Here seasonal component is excluded in time series, but sometimes we also include the seasonal component. So in which case we should exclude, and in which case we should include. Here in my example, I did not exclude the seasonal component. If you can see, I have created a model over here, one for seasonal and one for non-seasonal, for both the components. So we did not exclude seasonal component, Aarti, over here. And ideally, if you have seasonal component present in your time series, ideally you should not exclude the seasonal component. Seasonal components are the integral part of your time series. If they are present, you should include them for sure. If we are not a developer, then can we do time analysis and forecasting? Yes, Nikhil, all you need to do little experience of Python programming and analytics concepts like time series analysis, and you can actually do it for sure. So it doesn't make it mandatory for you to be a developer. Okay, a very important question from Vivek. Vivek is asking, while decomposing the time series, you have considered multiplicative. How do you know? How do we know whether the components are multiplicative or additive? So Vivek, that is something you decide by looking at your time series. I used multiplicative model because I could see a sharp trend was present in my model. If your time series has got maybe, or is time series look like a sort of study and a very linear time series, or maybe a sort of stationary time series, then you should go ahead with the additive model. So that is something which we decide by looking at the trend and the curve of the time series. Does the data breakup into the test and trend will impact the forecasting, asked by Ankur? Yes, Ankur. So definitely, if you are going to maybe keep a lot of data for testing and you are keeping a very small part of data for training, it is going to be a very bad model. So you should generally follow the rule of maybe 10-90% or 20-80%. Okay, so you can follow 20-80% at max. You can keep 20% data for testing and 80% for training. Okay, so having said that, I think, friends, our time is up, and thank you all again for joining this session. I'm really sorry I could not answer all of your questions, but I hope you have enjoyed this session. Thank you, everyone, and have a very safe stay at home. Take care of all of you, and hope to interact with you all in future. Bye. See you.
All right. Thank you so much, Hemant. Quite an informative session, and I could see a lot of questions have been coming in, but you seem to have covered a lot of them as much as we could. So thank you so much, Hemant, one more time. Attendees, you have been great all through the while. I'm repeating again, we will be sharing the recording links with you. We'll need some time, and you should be having that in your inboxes. Plus the certificates will also be shared across for people who have attended the session end to end. Yeah, so post the session, you'll have one survey form. You can drop in your feedbacks, your inputs, your interest into getting ahead, going ahead with the training if that has interested you, and we'll be more than happy to assist you there and support you further. And you can reach out to us anytime for any kind of assistance for your training needs or to your L&D Spox as well. With that, we'll wrap up the session for today, and we can connect in the further sessions that have been planned if you find them useful for yourself. Thank you so much. Please be safe and stay indoors. Thank you. Bye-bye.